Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Rashad, aka One Flesh, and welcome to Marriage Maintenance, where I'm gonna show you a lot of strategies you can use to strengthen your marriage. So we've been talking about communication for the past, I don't know, 3 months, 2, 3 months, something like that. And so I'm gonna stay in that line of communication. See what I did there? Anyway, so today I want to talk to you about non-verbal communication. We know there's 3 types of communication: verbal, non-verbal, and visual. Verbal is with words, of course. Non-verbal is with your actions, your facial expressions, your tone of voice, stuff like that, your hand gestures. And then visual is like pictures. You're never gonna use that in your marriage. You're not gonna sit your spouse aside and be like, "Hey, listen to this PowerPoint so you can understand me." No, we don't. That's not normal at all. So don't do it. But anyway, I want to talk to you today about nonverbal communication. So let's get into it. So when you first get married, people tell you right off the bat, communication is the key. You have to communicate. If you don't have communication, then it's gonna fall apart. So make sure you communicate and you'll be well. All right, go out there, be somebody. But they don't tell us how to communicate. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just be like, "Oh yeah, communicate, you'll be fine," and then send you out into the world.
No, you won't be fine.
All right, you have to know how to communicate. We got married at 21. I can't speak for everybody else, but most people that get married at a young age, like me, have no idea how to communicate with somebody on a personal level. No idea, especially growing up in the video game age, where we're glued to a screen almost 24/7, right? So they're like, "Oh, just communicate," but no one teaches you how to communicate. So there's 3 ways of communication, which I talked about, which is verbal, nonverbal, and then visual. But the one we leave out the most is nonverbal. And these nonverbal cues can send off signals or communicate things that you did not want to communicate to your spouse. So you gotta be careful with your nonverbal communication, right? So we gotta focus more on nonverbal communication, and then we'll hone in on the rest later. With nonverbal communication, you have to be aware of your hand gestures or body posture. Those are like one thing anyway. Your facial expressions and tone of voice. Certain postures, tone of voice, and hand gestures aren't conducive to conversation. You have to create an environment where your spouse can communicate to you, right? And you can communicate to your spouse. If you're not creating that environment, you are failing at communication, because communication is a two-way street. Okay, first thing is gestures. Now, most people may not think this is important, but it is, right? Gestures. Any conversation I am extremely interested in, my hand gesture is this. That's my hand gesture. When I'm talking, I'm like, "Yeah, dog," you know what I'm saying? When you're having a heated conversation, doing this is threatening. Like, some of y'all know my wife. She's a gangster, right? She grew up in a different environment than I grew up, all right? She rough around the edges, right? So this right here to her communicates to her like, okay, this is too aggressive, because when somebody does this to me, the next thing that follows is my fist in their face, right? So communicating this won't work, because my wife hears it. I know she's seeing it. Hear me out. I know she's only seeing the action, but when she sees the action, she hears, "Oh, these fighting words," because of my hand gestures, right? So I have to pay close attention to my body language, and what I am expressing to my spouse. She knows for a fact that I would never harm her, but I believe my wife has hood PTSD, and these signals trigger some bad impulses, right? So I have to stay away from that. So think about what hand gestures, body postures, and other things you're doing with your body that communicates to your spouse, that you haven't thought about before, right? So the second thing I want to talk about is facial expressions. Facial expressions, oh man. They communicate a lot. Listen, let me tell you, your words communicate one thing, but your face can say something totally different. And all my black girls say amen. Like, they know. Right? So it's the difference between saying, yes, honey, I believe you, other than saying, yeah, honey, I believe you. Like, that face, the facial expressions can communicate a lot. That's my point, right? So think about what you're doing with your face, and hopefully try to align your facial expression with what you're saying, so that you're not communicating something totally different. Because you can say one thing, but your facial expression says, H-nah, I ain't doing that. Number 3, which is one of the bigger parts of nonverbal communication to me, is tone of voice. I say nonverbal communication because it's not the words that you're focusing on, right? It's the tone that you say those words. You know, I'm sure you guys have heard, like, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And that speaks volumes, right? So what you say moves weight, right? But how you said it makes the bigger impact. We had a conversation recently about apologies and how apologies should be said and what tone of voice should be used in said apology. If someone were to apologize to you, you would want to hear a seemingly sincere apology. Let's say she put your Cocoa Puffs on the top shelf and you like them on the middle shelf, right? Just bear with me. So you approach her like, hey, you put my Cocoa Puffs on the top shelf. You know I like them on the middle shelf. Why did you do that? And she was like, oh, my bad. I didn't think it was a big deal. You wouldn't consider that a sincere apology, implying that this may come up again. One day you're gonna wake up and your Cocoa Puff gonna be on the top shelf again, and you're not gonna like it, right? So what it should sound like, the tone of voice that should be used would be something like, well, sorry, I just wasn't thinking. I won't put them up there. I'll just put them on the middle row. Now, which one sounds more sincere to you? You know what I mean? Your tone of voice says something different than what you're saying. You're saying sorry. You're legitimately apologizing for putting something in a place that it shouldn't have been, or what have you. I don't know why anybody would be mad over that, but people have their things. Being sincere is, I believe, 90% tone of voice. It makes all the difference. It could be the difference between your husband taking out the trash willingly and respectfully, or your husband taking out the trash grudgingly and straight up with an attitude. Anyways, that's my take on body language, and I don't think I got nothing else for y'all, man. Not this week, at least. But yeah, that's my take on body language, man. And watch yourself, because I'm telling you, those three things, body posture, tone of voice, facial expressions, they could get you in a lot of trouble, dog. Get you in a lot of trouble. So just watch what you're saying, how you're saying it, and what you're doing with your body to communicate with your spouse. Because you don't want to communicate the wrong thing. You always want to let your spouse know that you're there for them. You always want to let them know that they're secure, and don't trigger no PTSD. Hey, it's real. Good PTSD is real. Alright? For everybody that's out there watching, I love y'all. Good night.